For Zoro versus SleepyShaman, this is a matchup that they're probably pretty familiar with, both playing on teams who competed in the Hearthstone team story, and now here we are getting into game number 1 of this best of 5. Winner of this match will actually just advance out of the group, so that's actually a lot on the line. If you lose this match, then of course your fate still hangs in the balance. You have to play the winner of the match immediately after this, the loser's match, and so we'll have to wait a little bit longer to make it out of the group. So, to make it out of the group, we are seeing Zoro versus SleepyShaman, and it's looking like a, your standard aggro shaman versus SleepyShaman, who's going to be playing most likely a pretty standard combo druid.
Right, and we saw SleepyShaman's druid get bound out earlier, so we actually haven't seen this quite yet, though a lot of the druid classes are the druid decks are pretty similar. Picks up a pretty clunky hand here. Does SleepyShaman has the wrath able to clear out something early like that tunnel truck, but other than that, not too much going for him. One thing to look for, I mean, you kind of mentioned it already, but these players definitely don't want to go to the decider match after this. I mean, SleepyShaman, he barely got past Gudu by the skin of his teeth there at the end, so doesn't want to go against him once more. And I would say that Gudu is probably the favorite in that overall matchup, so definitely don't want to be heading against Gudu for a chance to get out of the group. Want to win it right here, right now. But both of these players, I'm sure, respect the other. They're very formidable, speaking of both players here, so going to be a really awesome match. And I mean, right now, 2 tunnel trucks is pretty difficult to do, especially with the hand as clunky as SleepyShaman. SleepyShaman needs to top deck something the next turn, or else he's probably not going to do too well here.
Yeah, right. This is where he innervates out another Wrath and kills both of them, right? Well, that would be the punish for Zoro, but unfortunately, SleepyShaman does not have quite that godlike of a starting hand. In fact, his hand is pretty slow, like we've been commenting on. But this is where you really start to put down the power, and there's really not too good of a play here for Zoro, but he probably just wants to put down I don't know. What would you want to save the Rockbiter weapon for your Wind Fury off of Doomhammer, so you definitely want to leave that there. And once you play Doomhammer, you're gonna have a lot of overloads, so you want to get rid of that with Lava Shock. So just goes ahead and totems up, and
probably the worst totem here. The best would probably be the taunt totem, which would be annoying in the future. It was actually a really complicated turn there by Zoro. If he was paying attention, he saw. No, it really was. I mean, for aggro decks, it's the most complicated in the early game. But Zoro, basically, what Zoro was thinking is that he saw SleepyShaman keep the Wrath, right? So all the other 3 cards weren't something that he kept. So basically, if you play the Abuser Sergeant, what you're doing is you're forcing your opponent to use hero power rather than play out something like, a shade or something they got in turn 3. And it's just not that. I mean, a lot of times it's not too. Or they could just play out the shade, but then obviously they get punished and they get, damaged for more. But it wasn't too likely that he had a shade in hand. So basically playing out the Abusive Sergeant just gave his opponent something to do that turn, right? And if he just plays the Totem, then his opponent has nothing to do, and he probably has the time to play the Abusive Sergeant later. So really a complicated turn there by Zoro, and I think he made the right play. Yeah. And it was just...
You know who doesn't have a complicated turn, D2?
Yeah,
SleepyShaman, nothing to do. Ugh, feels bad.
Don't attack pass is pretty painful on turn 4, and I mean he has double healing in his hand, to be fair, but this game, I mean this game could be over in 2 turns.
Yeah, let's discuss hands that you don't want to get versus aggro decks. Hey, he's got the combo D2. That's pretty cool. No, not actually.
He's not gonna live that long, I don't believe. He doesn't even pick up the Druid Claw. It comes 1 turn too late. I imagine he'd want to play that before he played an Azure Drake.
Right.
But yeah, this is actually really awkward. Is there some sort of lethal right now? Let me just look at this. So if you use the Lava Burst, it actually ends up being a 7 damage because of the Tunnel Trug.
Right.
It gets bigger. So 7, 11, 15, 16, 18. Yeah, he's lethal. 21 damage, that graphic on the board says. So that's lethal on turn 5 for the Shaman there.
What
And,
on earth?
right.
That's crazy. Yeah, 21 damage, turn 5. Turns out, if you actually just do nothing to clear out your opponent's board, they win the game pretty quickly. And of course, a deck designed to do exactly that. Pretty much the... it's not necessarily even like a hard counter as far as decks go. It was just the draw was so terrible for SleepyShaman. It's been a while since I've seen draws that bad, especially with being able to mulligan for the deck exactly. Yeah, it's just a little bit unfortunate.
Right, because Shaman is one of the few classes right now that has one good deck, right? You don't, and particularly if you're playing in Zoro, there's no way he's not playing aggro Shaman. So you know exactly what you're rolling in for. There's no ambiguity there at all.
Yeah, you probably know like the 29 out of 30 cards in that deck, so
exactly.
it's not a big mystery. I mean, maybe if you're playing against like Shaman, it might be a mystery because he can play just about every style of Shaman out there. Even Totem Shaman, which was, I think, the most terrible experience I've ever had to cast a deck that just did absolutely nothing. Well, now he gets to play another deck that does absolutely nothing in that regard. The only thing he did that turn, he hero powered again and didn't do anything, and then he played an Azure Drake. So hopefully this turn, or this game, he gets to do slightly more than that, which is almost guaranteed to be possible. But here we go, game number 2. It's coming up. It's going to be Druid versus Paladin.
Yeah, and Paladin, unfortunately for SleepyShaman here, is yet another bad matchup for him. So gonna be interesting to see how this turns out, as we do see that as Secret Paladin. I guess we knew that from before, but there has been a mid-range Paladin in this group so far as well. So something hard to keep track of. There's the cards. There are the cards, excuse me, that SleepyShaman was looking for, and Darnassus is actually particularly good against Paladin because they have no real way to kill it unless they have something really strange like double secrets coming out as Secret Keeper. So we'll see how SleepyShaman goes about this. I mean, I can't really imagine him not going out Darnassus here. It just seems like it's too powerful, particularly because it is almost certainly not going to die.
This is where you have some way of playing Hammer of Wrath on turn 2.
Innovate Hammer of Wrath, right?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
I mean, Paladin could manually play 2 secrets.
Yeah, I think, I mean, obviously you can play 2 secrets, but that's one of the only ways. And you never actually keep 2 secrets. It's just, especially, you don't really keep 2 secrets just for the purposes of buffing Secret Keeper. And even if you did, you'd have to have all those 3 cards in your hand on turn 1, which is very hard to do. So, I mean, I think that SleepyShaman, I think that might be his first major kind of error here, playing too safe. And if he had Darnassus on turn 1, he would have been able to just clear out the
wow,
though.
Some unlucky hits there on the daggers. Needed one more to go onto that Darnassus Aspirant. Now he's actually going to have to trade it against that Knife Juggler, which, to be fair, is a pretty decent trade for SleepyShaman to go ahead and clear out a Knife Juggler, which is a very important aggressive card for that Paladin deck. But he's actually in a pretty decent spot right now. He's got Swipe next turn, so all these 1/1s don't really matter. And if this mini-bot's the play, or even if you get Divine Shield from that Coghammer, you're going to be able to clear that out with Swipe even still. So not that bad a setup for SleepyShaman, even though it's still a very strong start for Zoro's Secret Paladin.
Right, and by the way, that sequence with the Muscle battle wasn't actually too unlikely to happen. It was actually a 50-50 chance that it did happen that way, so don't feel too bad for Zoro in this instance. But I feel like SleepyShaman could have been in even a better situation had this turned out differently, or had he played a bit differently. Again, playing a bit, scared in the first part of this match, and now his swipe isn't even too good here. He had to swipe the face and then get rid of maybe Shield Minibot. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of awkward here for SleepyShaman now because he can't really use his keeper. You want to start developing the board, but before you've even seen one event or even one blessing or one, mysterious challenger, you don't really want to be using your keeper right now. And the swipe is also pretty weak. You could just use it in the future. But looks like he's gonna use the keeper right here, and he's gonna get pretty punished by Blessing of Kings. Or even, I mean, even Coghammer is reasonable, particularly because you get another minion on the board, and then you set up for something like the Mysterious Challenger. But yeah, I just unless SleepyShaman picks up a big game hunter and gets good RNG onto the Mysterious Challenger, I feel like this game, and yeah, Zoro is going to go for the Blessing King. So yeah, this is really dire for SleepyShaman right now.
Goes ahead and trades that out. Yeah, just make sure to keep his board as big as possible. And while, yeah, sure, Wrath's a good play, Swipe's a good play, but neither one of those are getting him ahead on the board. So he's just trying to deal with what his opponent is doing. And against a Secret Paladin, you have one option for cards to play on turn 6. And turns out he actually has 2 options. Both of the Mysterious Challengers in his hand. And he has actually, he hasn't played any secrets yet, has he?
No, he has not played a single
So
secret.
this is the dream. You play a million secrets in your deck, you draw none of them, and then all of a sudden you play 1 card and draw 5 at once. So this is basically as good as it gets for Secret Paladin. Turn 6, Doctor 6 there, and of course he's going to be able to kill off this Loatheb because it has 1 health thanks to all of those secrets that were summoned the turn before.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, I mean, you kind of alluded to it, right? But this is the dream for the Secret Paladin. You basically, you get the tempo and you make it so that your opponent has no board when you play Mysterious Challenger. Doesn't really matter too much if your Mysterious Challenger gets buffed and your opponent's able to beat it.
It just insta-concede. Turn 6, right. Mysterious Challenger into turn 7, Dr. Boom. It's just like, all right. We all knew Tyrion was going to get drawn next turn anyway, so better to just save himself the trouble. GG go next, and that's kind of where we are. Pretty instantaneous concede there.
Right. I think, again, I just want to go back to the turn 1 Wrath rather than play the Darnassus. You know there's bigger threats. You know there's things like Knife Juggler and other things in the deck that you want to be Wrathing. Obviously, you want to Wrath the Secret Keeper, or you would want to kill it for, excuse me, just to prevent it from getting out of control. But yeah, that was just basically his first major blunder. And honestly, even though it was an extremely good hand from Zoro, I feel like SleepyShaman had a chance. He would have gotten ahead in tempo had he done that particular play. And then from there, he could have utilized his swipe in a much better situation and could have gotten his Loatheb on curve, could have maybe played his Dr. Boom first. Or actually, that wouldn't have been the case. He couldn't have played it first. But it would have been a much better situation. He might have still lost in the end, but just interesting to see someone who is as solid as SleepyShaman. And we've seen him play such, immaculate games and, played a great first series here in this Group A. And just to see him falter there, and I would say that was a bit of a falter there, playing a bit too scared, and that cost him the game. Just really, I mean, it's just kind of crazy to see, how these kind of big tournaments can get the best of anyone, really.
That's the thing I love about Hearthstone is like you can have the most dominant player in the world, and he gets bad RNG. Not a lot you can do about that. Now, granted, you can build consistency into your deck, and you can play, over the course of a best of 5, that kind of averages out. But guys like SleepyShaman, sometimes you just draw dead, and he's still trying to make this Druid deck work.
Well, I still feel like he had a chance, though. I was more remarking on the fact that he kind of faltered, and it's like kind of uncharacteristic of SleepyShaman. I feel like he could have had a chance there if he didn't, kind of play too scared in the beginning, and it's just kind of uncharacteristic, and it's crazy to see, pressure have that effect on players. But this game so far, not too bad for him. Obviously, it's going to be the Reno from Zoro. Gonna put out what looks to be a 4/6 here, which is not the craziest minion to have on 4. Usually it's a bit more dangerous, but yeah, from SleepyShaman, he's in an okay spot. This is actually a relatively even matchup, even though typically Druid wins most times against control-y Warlock decks. This is one of the rare exceptions where it's actually quite even.
Right, because you do have things like that Demon Wrath to help clear things out, or maybe Hellfire later on. And all you have to do is really just limit the number of minions on the field. Make sure to keep yourself above combo range, and then, yeah, just Reno yourself to victory, because that's the way Reno wins against a lot of mid-range decks, is they spend their time doing stuff, and Reno just undoes everything in one easy card. So it's going to be interesting to see us, progresses, because for SleepyShaman, this is the first time that we're really getting a chance to see him play like some good cards in a good order. He does have a pretty decent hand this time around with a lot of options for ways to clear off the board. And what do you think about that decision to reveal the Shade that turn?
Well, it looked like he was going to go for the Druid of the Claw first to protect the Shade, potentially if he attacked with it, but going for the Loatheb is pretty interesting as well, because what it does is prevent any sort of Mortal Coil. Obviously, that would be, you know, really optimal for Zoro to be able to do that, but more or less prevents it, or definitely prevents it actually with the Loatheb, since it costs 6. And now he can just basically use this Wrath, and picking up this Innervate's pretty good as well. I wonder if he just goes to the Innervates, Druid of the Claw, and then from there he can go to the Ancient of Lore, but no, just gonna hold on to it and potentially use that for maybe, you know, a single combo or maybe even a double combo in the future to kill his opponent, because the name of the game here is to just kill your opponent as fast as possible before they do crazy Reno things.
Yeah, crazy Reno things, crazy you know, Stalag Fugen things, lots of craziness in the deck. In fact, when I first saw Reno Warlock, I was just like, wait a second, there's no possible way that deck can work. I was like seeing all these wacky cards, and I was like, wait a second, it's just a deck full of wacky cards that all do cool stuff. That's pretty cool, and it turns out it is actually pretty cool. So drawing some cards here for Zoro. He I guess he's in a pretty decent spot right now. He's got a high life total. He's got tons of options in his hand. I mean, basically the only better card he could have drawn there was either Dr. Boom or Emperor Thorson, both of which would have been pretty good.
Right. So Zoro's the problem with playing against Druid in this situation is you're running into a lot of spots where you're afraid of him killing you. Obviously, this wouldn't be it. You wouldn't die to a single combo right now. But it's something to keep in mind at all times. As we see, you know, him just play out this Sylvanas. And yeah, from SleepyShaman, I mean, basically, like we said, he's just trying to kill his opponent as fast as possible. Last couple turns, just wanted to play them out for you guys. Obviously, what Zoro did with the Implosion hits 3 for the first time this tournament. It didn't hit 4 like he did before, but it wasn't a misplay by him, by the way, to tap last, obviously, because he wanted to use the Mortal Coil after that, and then from there, just kind of going back and forth these last couple of turns. But no combo in the hand yet of SleepyShaman, just has one piece of it, and wouldn't be able to kill his opponent in this situation anyway. And seeing that one Innervate is actually kind of nice for Zoro, because he knows that there's only one Innervate left, and he hasn't seen Thorson yet, so there's not going to be any sort of a double combo in him, or at least not very likely to be so, from SleepyShaman. So Zoro can play a bit, you know, rest a bit easier here, and, you know, just play out his hand and not have to worry about keeping himself alive. You know, nothing like a Siphon Soul on that Shredder or anything crazy like that. But he is choosing between his which cards to discover here, and I wish they would go back to his screen so we could see it instead of...
Oh, there are Corruption, Secret Keeper, and the 1/2 Moloch.
Right, so he goes for Corruption, which is kind of interesting here. I suppose because he uses it now, and if he doesn't use it now, he can't really use it in the future, because he's probably going to be in combo range from here on out. You don't really want to be using Corruption to kill a minion, because you're just going to kill you before that even happens. So it makes sense for him to use it now. It's more impactful than getting a 1/2 on the board. So I think a pretty good play here from Zoro. And it looks like it's just going to be 5-drop, 4-drop coming here from Shaman. SleepyShaman, sorry.
Yep. Oh, and he does actually get a pretty good taunt there. The Annoyatron coming down will stop any actual, you know, minions from hitting him in the face at this point. But he needs to go maybe a little bit more on the aggressive, try to put some pressure down to either force out an early Reno or start putting Zoro in, you know, in combo range, which is sort of the fear that a lot of you know, Reno decks have versus Druid. But he does have a lot of relatively sticky minions there on the field, so if at any point he draws into Savage Roar, that is a lot of damage.
Alright, looks like Zoro is just going to start clearing out some of these minions. A bit worried about, obviously, like you said, the possibility of the combo coming out. So we're going to play out the Loath a bit as well, to make sure nothing crazy happens to him. And on the side of SleepyShaman, he can't even play, even with the discount from the Pine Size Summoner. He can't even play out Wild Growth plus his Drew the Claw, so it looks like it's going to be just a Drew the Claw. And
Probably wants to play this in. Does he charge it and then try to, like you said, just whittle his opponent down to try to get as much damage as possible, or just get the extra stats? It looks like he's going for stats.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is if your opponent has a way to deal with the Neutron, after you charge it, the Lothab has kind of a free kill in it. Now you're having to use 2 mana to invest into a hero power to clear off the Lothab, which is kind of nice. Also, you know that your opponent doesn't have any more Mortal Claws because you've seen that already. And so you know that your Drew the Claw is probably going to be fine here, unless, you know, something like a Dark Bomb is used, which you're totally fine with as well. We could see right here a Hellfire plus Reno. I actually kind of prefer that play. You go for the Hellfire, you clear off the Drew the Claw, your Reno, you're at 30 health, your opponent only has 5 cards in hand, and you have the board control with the 4/6, and you have the Doctor Boom to back it up, as well as potentially a Jiraxis in the... Oh, I guess you wouldn't Jiraxis at that point, but... yeah, it's just a really solid spot here if he does go for that, and it looks like he is going to be doing that. So this is exactly why this, you know, is a good matchup. Just Reno by itself is such a big deal. You don't... I mean, in a lot of other situations, if Druid can just get a minion on the board, you know, Zoro is stuck at 16 health, and, you know, he's just having to clear every single last thing. But now he can just kind of chill out and play his own minions.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little unfair for friends to meet like this, and you would just kill each other. I mean, Harrison Jones is not that good against Reno, but
yeah, unfortunate for SleepyShaman has to play the Harrison out there. He pretty much knows that there's Jiraxis in this deck, but he can't really wait for that moment because Zoro's not gonna play Jiraxis out anytime soon. He's not gonna take his own health down that far, at least not for a very long time at the very least. So yeah, it definitely makes sense for that to go down, or for the Harrison to go down. Not gonna wait for Jiraxis. For SleepyShaman here, he can clear the board by wrathing for 1 on Dr. Boom, then using Swipe in his keeper, which looks like he's gonna do, and that prevents him from, or that makes it that he doesn't need, excuse me, the BGs to kill that, and it doesn't pick it up anyway. Could pick up BGs in the future for something like Thaddeus, especially because he just used Silence to, or his Silence option to clear out the Dr. Boom. So there is that there. And kind of an awkward situation for SleepyShaman. He can clear out both the Stalag, excuse me, and the Thaddeus, but it uses part of his combo, and that's what just makes it so awkward right now. And Zoro looks to be in a really good spot, especially with one piece of this combo coming down. Looks like SleepyShaman's going to go for the Force rather than the Roar, because that leaves him still the option to go with double combo in the future.
Yep, well, there comes Thaddeus. It's not often you get a chance to see that card in competitive Hearthstone, but immediately following that, turns out Big Game Hunter's pretty good at hunting the 11-11s down, and goes ahead and just takes that out pretty easily. Nerebar Weblord, so that's pretty cool. And that is actually, let's see, does that stop any cards from Zoro from playing that? Yeah, it actually makes Jiraxis unplayable, right? Yeah. Every single card in his hand.
Right, we were mentioning it earlier, but he probably doesn't want to be playing Jiraxis at this point anyway. But good play by SleepyShaman, by the way, to not attack the Nerebar Weblord. Obviously, he wants to be getting damage to face anyway. But, I mean, he realized that there's a lot of battle cries in Reno, so it's probably hurting his opponent more than it's hurting him. But, I mean, this game is honestly really back and forth. If, however, there is no taunt or anything put up by Zoro, and there's a combo, then he's dead. But looks like he's just gonna get rid of this Big Game Hunter now, which removes the threat of that happening.
Yeah, just gonna go ahead and take it out. That's why Big Game Hunter is so good, because it takes out one threat, and then you have to deal with it, at some point. Otherwise, it takes out another one. So, interesting position that we find ourselves in right now. No Reno for SleepyShaman. He's down to 11 HP, and there he will stay unless he picks up some, Ancients or Druids.
Right, yeah, needs to pick up Ancient of Lore here as
or
quick
yeah,
as
Ancient
possible.
of Lore, but
Picks up Dr. Boom immediately after BGH is played
wow.
as a tempo card, so that's really
Okay.
painful to see. I mean, there is the Siphon Soul, so I guess that's kind of what Zoro was thinking. There's not going to be anything bigger than Dr. Boom, and I can just Siphon Soul it. So that's kind of makes a bit of sense here, but still pretty painful. Actually picks up Healbot as well, which is really nice for him in the future. Just, perpetually get out of combo range.
Yeah, and I mean the boombots do still survive. Those things can be extremely nasty to deal with. So Darnassus Aspirant, not the card he was looking for. If he drew into combo there, that's
20
actually
damage.
yeah, 20 damage. That's pretty ridiculous, but that would still be a terrible idea to do versus a Reno lock because then they just heal it all back the next turn.
Yeah, with the Duraxis, with the Healbot, would be a pretty, you know, risky play to make. And yeah, SleepyShaman is on his last legs here, and don't forget it's already 2-0. I mean, I have to admit I was kind of lost in this game for a second here, just like looking at the plays back and forth, but it is 2-0 Zoro, and not what we were expecting between these two, looking better and better even in just this game for Zoro. And these two extremely strong players, we were like expecting it to go 5 games, but looking really bad now for SleepyShaman. Picks up the combo, but that doesn't really do a whole lot.
No, I mean it would clear things out, but even at this point, that's sort of like a formality because you're not playing against an opponent who's playing by the same rules that you are. Like there's so many different ways to deal with things. Even that Healbot takes him all the way back up to 30 health, and it's like you're playing Hearthstone all over again there, just with 10 mana for both players. And of course, we all know who is able to utilize that better. Now, Ancient of Lore draw would be pretty decent for SleepyShaman, but
He's almost
too
dead.
late. Yeah, it's too late to draw cards for options. Right. He needs to have already had those options because he's down to 6 health right now, and it's not going.
It was actually 1 damage off lethal there for Zoro. Just throwing that up there from the Axis. But yeah, it needs the combo clear here. And if you're gonna combo clear a Reno Warlock that's still at 28 health, and you only have 1 Force Nature left as far as combo pieces are concerned, I mean, Zoro's looking at this thinking like, well, I don't have lethal, but I'm feeling pretty good right now. Running out of cards though, so that is one kind of issue here. Maybe, well, wait a second. What if SleepyShaman just gets rid of all his opponent's options? If you're Zoro, do you just Jiraxis here? Yeah, he's going to go Jiraxis because he knows his opponent doesn't have any more Forces of Nature left. He knows there's no more combo pieces. The only way he dies is if his opponent plays... his opponent gets a board and then plays Savageur. But he needs to kill him as fast as possible because he's running out of cards. So I really like this from Zoro.
Oh.
And...
yeah, 100% chance of drawing Emperor. Is that his last card? It is.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. They're saying that the last card is Emperor. Yeah, I mean, heal for SleepyShaman is pretty nice. What Zoro can do here, however, is play a hero power and use Shadow Flame so that he doesn't die to anything crazy. However, he doesn't use Shadow Flame here. He is dead, I believe. 7 plus 6, 13. Yeah, he's dead. So he needs a Shadow Flame right here. He could actually use Owl Shadow Flame and just Shadow Flame the Owl, and then he might not be dead. But yeah, he's not going to take any chances. Just going to keep hitting his opponent in the face, and his opponent's going to have to keep, healing because he can't put a taunt up because there's an Owl. So this is actually getting really close. It's kind of crazy. So Keeper hits the board, gets him down to 9, takes 1 damage. Savageur does 4, 6, 7. So I think SleepyShaman just won the game.
Are you actually kidding me?
What? Just won.
Are you kidding me? This game is so back and forth over and over again, but it looks like surviving down to his last 3 health. 3 health, D2. He's going to draw into an Emperor of his own, but he doesn't even need to play that one. And SleepyShaman, against more odds than I know how to play against, will win that game versus Zoro as a mid-range Shaman, or a mid-range Druid.
Crazy thing is if Emperor wasn't the last card in Zoro's deck, I'm pretty sure he wins easily, because what that allows him to do is play Jiraxis and then immediately Infernal And that's a big deal. You get the 6-6 right away, that would have just won the game. But the fact that he didn't do that, didn't have that, he had to use his Infernal, he had to use his hero power just to Shadow Flame so he didn't die. That that game, if that game didn't happen exactly the way it did, then well, obviously there's so many different things that could happen, right? I mean, ancient lore could have been drawn much sooner for SleepyShaman, etc., etc. But I mean, I don't even know what to think of that game anymore. We were calling it, but then we realized, wait a second, there's no cards left in Zoro's deck. So yeah, 2-1 for Zoro. We're going into game 4.
Wow. Yeah, it turns out when you actually just ran out of cards, your options are somewhat limited, especially if that last card doesn't really work very well when, you know, you've got plenty of mana anyway and, you know, it's your last card. Probably better to use it to discount, you know, earlier options. But either way, we are about, like you said, to go into game number 4, and I've actually been pretty surprised to see how even a lot of these series have been, you know, with games going back and forth between both players. I mean, granted, maybe that's a little bit more prevalent in conquest format, but let's go ahead and get into game number 4 and find out if this will be our last game of this series, at least, with Zoro up 2-1 with only one more win needed. He's going to go back to his Warlock. Of course, this will now be playing out against Freeze Mage for SleepyShaman.
Yeah, SleepyShaman was able to take out Gudu earlier in this matchup, but don't, you know, be confused. This is actually a good matchup for... Oh, actually, no, he beat the Malagos lock. Sorry, it's a different matchup. But the Reno lock does have the advantage, definitely, because of all the healing that it has in his deck. I want to address something in chat. People thinking that Zoro made a bad play there by playing the Draxus. If he waited for the Draxus to potentially heal himself up, he would have been so far in fatigue that his opponent just kills him the next turn. So it actually was a good play to play the Draxus as early as possible. Otherwise, he would have just died eventually anyway. Just throwing that out there, guys. In any case, yeah, this matchup. I mean, look at the hand of Zoro here. He has the heal butt. He has the Reno Jackson, and he has, you know, that Twilight Drake to put on the pressure initially anyway. So this is going to be a really uphill battle for SleepyShaman.
All right, well, that uphill battle starts, well, not right now. It started a few turns ago, but he's got to make a big impression this time around. He also has that Rogue deck, too, so if he picks up a win here, maybe Rogue can bring it back and, you know, to sneak a win, but I don't know. That would be a little bit difficult, especially with all the healing and options that are in the Reno lock. But either way, that's neither here nor there. We are about to watch a, once again, relatively lackluster start for SleepyShaman. This guy, you know, I swear he plays less minions than I've ever seen any other player play, but he's going to get a good one, and this is actually going to be a pretty powerful Emperor, because not only does it give him a free Ice Lance, but it discounts every other really card that you need other than, you know, other Fireballs or Archmage Antonitis or stuff.
Yeah, I think he's going for a bit of a tempo play here. Wants to... I mean, it's kind of weird to say that with tempo play with Freeze Mage, right? But he wants to... He doesn't get too many things discounted as far as burn is concerned, but he gets more utility out of his cards. Also gets a cheaper Alexstrasza, which is really imperative. Basically, SleepyShaman here is crossing his fingers that Reno isn't already in the hand of Zoro, which, unfortunately for him, that's the case. So, yeah, that's going to be a bit awkward. Zoro actually a bit of a slight misplay as far as placement is concerned. Plays the Shredder on the left, and on top of that also doesn't split his minions up, his stronger minions away from each other so they don't get colded. So a slight of a situation there. Could have also used his Abusive Sergeant with the Big Game Hunter to clear off, you know, that Thorson or, you know, the Antonitis in the future, but doesn't go ahead and do that. But yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. I mean, I suppose there could have been a ping onto the 2-1 regardless, but you never know if your opponent has, you know, the requisite mana to go ahead and do that play. But SleepyShaman, in the meantime, holding on as best as he can here. Probably going to use either the Blizzard or the Flame Strike the following turn to clear out his opponent's board and, you know, make room for his Alexstrasza. But yeah, Zoro just going to keep playing up minions, and if he ever gets Alexstrasza, if he ever gets some burn to his face, it's just going to be boom, Healbot, or boom, Reno, depending on what he feels like. The one thing that Zoro, however, has to be concerned about is you can't play Reno before he plays Alex. It's just you really punish off unless you know that they have no burn in the rest of their deck. You can't really afford to go and do that. So it's really like a kind of a guessing game as far as how much damage you think your opponent has. Because if you're around 20, your opponent can actually kill you if they've already had one Thorson wave go off.
Yeah, actually, I was having a question that did we go through SleepyShaman's freeze mage deck, because there's a possibility that he might run Maligos in this deck as well.
Oh, right. Yeah, we've been through the vast majority of it, so I doubt it at this point. But Zoro kind of playing with fire here. I believe 21 is possible. You're capable of dealing 21 damage with freeze mage.
Well, I mean, no, because the Blood Mage Thanos has already dead, so you need Blood Mage Thanos to do that, and yeah.
Well, there could be Fireball, Frostbolt, Ice Lance, and I believe that's enough for since everything's gotten Thorson. But in any case, a really good drop off of that Pilot Cheddar if you're a SleepyShaman, because you're able to clear the board here. And kind of an awkward situation for Zoro, because he wants to keep tapping for more options, but at the same time, he doesn't want to bring himself too low here. And also, he needs to be playing out cards out of his hand just so he doesn't overdraw. So that's kind of awkward as well. Puts the Fuga on the field, which is really not too much pressure onto SleepyShaman. So this game is actually kind of looking okay for SleepyShaman if you can just pick up a little bit more burn here. And yeah, I mean, we'll see how this game plays out. But for now, Zoro can't really tap. I mean, I guess he could tap, but then you're kind of forced to play out a card. He'd go back to 10 cards. Don't really want to be using Dark Bone that way either. Yeah, so just gonna pass. Second Frostbolt comes into the hand of SleepyShaman, and that is a lot of burst. He's actually looking at Power Blasting first and before Alex is, but I kind of like the Alex because it's less likely that your opponent has Reno and Big Game Hunter. We see that he does have both, but it's less likely to be the case. So yeah, it would be difficult for SleepyShaman, or in normal cases for Zoro to deal with that. In any case, Zoro not really sure what to do here. I think he's choosing between the Healbot and the Reno. I can't imagine he doesn't play either.
Right.
Because yeah, he could just die obviously to a bunch of things, but he could kind of go for that Healbot and bait his opponent into trying to burst him down, and then he goes for the Reno. I kind of like this a lot actually. Basically, you're really screwing your opponent in this way, and you can. A lot of times you can bait the freeze mage into getting you down really, really low. The one thing is that, what if SleepyShaman read into that? What if he just saw Zoro pause there, and now he plays around that and gets his opponent down a little bit, but not too much?
Yeah, nothing like super crazy, but we are certainly starting to get there, because for Reno Lock, the idea is that you want to get very low in health and then heal yourself all the way back up. But against the freeze mage, you can always just straight up die if they have enough, crazy bursts with some like free ice lances, one of which is in SleepyShaman's hand.
Right, and so we do see SleepyShaman has what is that, 17 damage out of hand. So if Zoro isn't careful, maybe he taps a bit too much here and there. Then he could just die without ever playing his Reno, and that would be pretty tragic here. In any case, Zoro kind of wondering what to do. If he plays the Sun Fury Protector, it gets him some more damage on the board, and it protects himself from getting hit by that Loot Hoarder, which is obviously, valuable. It's nice not to get hit by the Loot Hoarder because you don't want to be taking extra damage, but at the same time, you don't want to be committing too much to any more AoE potentially. Though you have seen quite a lot of it. Looks like it's going to be actually the Owl hitting the field. I'm actually very surprised that he didn't taunt the Imp King boss here. But
Yeah, just try to keep an eye on the board as Sleepy Shaman continues to just look for answers. Needs things like Archmage Antonitis, like maybe Fireballs to continue to clear out the board. I was kind of surprised he didn't freeze it there, but even if he had, there's really no follow-up to that. So, not like a Doomsayer that you can throw down at the same time. And once again, no Fireballs to just start firing them off and maybe clearing out a little bit more of the board. So, looks like Zoro is very, very narrowly close to advancing out of Group A and in to the playoffs as we continue here with more Gold Series action. And for Sleepy Shaman, if he loses this, then he, of course, he's got one more shot to beat the loser of our previous two teams.
Or the winner.
The winner, right. Well,
so,
the winner of the losers match. Yeah.
The winner of the losers match, absolutely. But in any case, I mean, this is getting honestly really complicated. A lot of times, the Reno can kind of cruise to victory using its healing and kind of pressuring the opponent. But Sleepy Shaman has done a really good job of mitigating the board of Zoro. And right now, I mean, like you said, he didn't use the Frost Nova because he didn't need to. And he can use that for future turns and basically just force Zoro to put more minions on the field right now if he wishes to finish this game out. And there's not too much burst in Reno. You're typically trying to stay alive, and that's not quite it, is it? It doesn't have enough mana, unfortunately, but looks like he's going to commit the Frost Bolts and Ice Lance to kind of pressure his opponent. I kind of like this play by Sleepy Shaman. He knows he needs to kind of make his opponent fear lethal, so he plays the Reno Jackson, but at the same time, he can't commit too much or else he gets completely, devastated by it. So I really like this play. And however, did he commit too much with the Ice Lance? Maybe he should have just gone with just one Frostbolt. Though he can't play it with the Pyroblast as well, so that's kind of a consideration.
Yeah, I was actually going to say that considering the mana efficiency, you just play the player best because player best. I mean, you could play the Frostbolt and Ice Lance at the same turn, but if you are going to draw something like a Fireball, then Player Blast will take another turn for you to play that. So.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with you, Shrink, there. Because, yeah, like you said, Pyroblast just costs too much. It does 10 damage, but it costs 9. Whereas if you have the Frostbolt Ice Lance, it's what was it? 1 mana? Was it 2? Was it 3 mana total? I'm not sure.
3 mana.
I think it was 2 mana. I think it was 2 mana for the Frostbolt Ice Lance because I think it was 1 and 1.
Oh, you mean
the Frostbolt Ice Lance that he used? How much mana did it cost?
I think it was 3, wasn't it? Because
he's at 5 mana now. Right. So yeah, it's a 5 mana now. So it was 2 and 1. So yeah, but in any case, 2 and 1, you basically get to use. As you see the Reno come up, but you basically get to use 3 mana to do 7, which is a lot of times better than using 9 mana to do 10 in this instance. And also you get to use Archmage Antonitis with that as well. So I tend to agree with you. In any case, Zoro does get to play Molten Giant and tap and play Reno, so he's in a really fantastic spot right here. Pretty hard to die, and so. I mean, basically, Sleepy Shaman's going to be needing a really good draw here going forward. I imagine it's either going to be Antonitis or maybe something like an Arcane Intellect into Morpheus and like a Doomsayer or something like that.
Right. And in fact, Doomsayer is one of the only ways back into this game for Sleepy Shaman. He is kind of being put back up against the wall right now. He's got 15 health, but really that doesn't matter if he can't clear the minions that are on the board. They are just actually going to win the game, and of course, able to. He's going to steal the Loot Hoarder. Okay, that's when you're doing the utmost, just desperately trying to maybe keep all of your opponent's minions at bay, and of course, a draw into the top decked. Blizzard is about the best that Sleepy Shaman could hope for, because even though it damages the Imp Gang boss, it's not actually going to spawn anything because the board's full.
Right. So yeah, able to freeze the board here. A really interesting play by Zoro there. You're kind of giving away some of your damage, but you figure if your board, unless your board gets cleared, which is unlikely at this point, you're not going to be able to use that power overwhelming. And he's just denying a card from Sleepy Shaman. And the scariest, like Sleepy Shaman is desperate for cards right now. And if he's desperate for cards right now, then obviously Zoro is, he wants to deny those cards as much as possible. Picks up a Reliquary Seeker, which allows him to get a 5/5 on the board for 1 mana, which is kind of nice though. Like you need the mana anyway. Sleepy Shaman's actually going to give this game up. He's actually just dead on board. And that's going to be it. Zoro takes this series 3-1. He moves on to the round of 16. Sleepy Shaman still in jeopardy here, has to win the next match and has to take out